This episode of Quitters is brought to you by Primal Kitchen. Everyone loves my jingles, let's face it. I'm a jingle machine. Cooking in the new year, everybody had dry January, not me. I don't believe in that. That's not my jam. But I do believe in starting out the year by eating as well and in nourishing my body in the best way possible. And I like to do that with Primal Kitchen.
I also like to do that with Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are made with purposeful, high-quality ingredients, good fats from plant-based oils, no refined sugar, and most importantly, delicious flavor. What that means to me is they're made with stuff that you are supposed to eat, basically. If I just had to make it very simple for myself, which I do, it means that the food is going to be good for you and it's not going to make you feel bad.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of stuff about there. They've got great recipes online. They've got lots of flavorful things, dressings and condiments. Staple in my kitchen is the avocado oil spray. It has replaced all other cooking sprays in my home. I don't know doodah about oil. All I know is that this is a good fat and it makes really great eggs in the morning. Love it.
Delicious. Bomb. Quitters listeners can save 20% at primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer.
That's right.
Growing up, I was someone who was so afraid of no. My mom would always say, if I had to go up and ask someone for a mint or something, like the smallest things, my mom would always say, what's the worst they could say? No. And I would be like, yes, that is the worst that could happen. That's a terrible thing to happen. And then I go into this career path where I literally, it's just always no. When it comes to the actual job, I've gotten to the point where I understand that the job isn't real until you're on set and the camera's rolling. Anything can happen.
So we're talking today about our guest, Ben Norris, who plays a teenager to great effect. It is very funny on Mindy Kaling's Netflix show, Never Have I Ever, a show that I enjoy. And I have to say, I think he's probably one of the funnier characters on it. I really love him. But he's actually like a man. He's an adult man who has some, a little life under his belt and had to do some quitting to get to where he is. I was impressed by that. I related to that. Obviously, I was like mind meld because that was exactly sort of my story along the way. I was just interested very much in how you felt talking to somebody so optimistic.
Okay, you're forcing me to, I have a point of view, so you're forcing me to give it to you. I think optimistic people are nice to be around. He's focused on positive outlook, which I think is a signal that it's something that I am in and out of sometimes where I'm like, I'm doing it because I need to keep myself going. I need to keep myself moving. It was telling that he didn't quit his side jobs until season 2. You know what I mean? To me, he still feels like he is very much still in the hustle, which is a different place than some of the people we've had on who are they're out of the hustle. They still love the job. Right. They still do the job, but they're not in the hustle the same way.
And most of all, I enjoyed hearing that he feels like we're going to be okay. This Gen Z group they give a shit, at least the ones on the set in California, who knows, but that they give a shit. I needed to hear that right now.
Those kids have really good hearts. I wonder if they have an inner life at all. If they get to spend any time with themselves, by themselves, without other people's feedback mechanisms. Because I worry that their point of view is going to go through such a filter of feedback of what other people think about their point of view that it won't even be theirs when it comes out on the other end. That's the part
is so interesting.
I'm scared of.
Yeah, there's not a minute that all these digital natives are not in a feedback loop, and with the algorithm being fed to them, it was fun to talk to somebody young and who really loves it. He loves it. He loves acting. He loves being part of it. And that's joyful. And I don't always have an optimistic outlook, and I really appreciated his.
Here he is, Ben Norris. Hello.
Hi.
You guys
I'm
look
Julie.
amazing. Hi, Julie. I know who you are, Julie. Very nice to meet you.
Hey,
It's nice to
man.
meet you.
Very
I'm
big.
Chad. You look amazing.
Oh, well, my God. Thank you guys.
Welcome to Quitters.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I've been listening to a lot of episodes, and you guys are amazing. So I'm so thankful to be here.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thanks for
That's
coming.
really nice. So I wanted to ask you about your age because you said you're friends with Quinta and you're friends with Kate, but you're playing a high school student. Are you okay to talk about your age, or is that a secret?
I'm fine with talking about my age. I really am.
Okay,
and you know
are.
what? I
Okay.
knew the day would come eventually because it's online. It's like no one knows how old I am, and I'm not trying to keep it a secret. It's just
Can we guess? Would you hate that?
I would
wanna
love
guess.
that, actually.
Julie, will you guess?
Well, I was blown away because I know how old Kate is, but then where I got thrown, I was like, Quinta is a showrunner and creator, and she can't be more than that puts you at anywhere between 29 and 32 max.
I think
That means
31.
Quinta's in there too, and yet she's one of the most like important voices in television right now. It's amazing.
Well, to answer your age question, I'm 32. Yeah.
And do you think that you? I'm gonna lay it on you in
Sure.
an unfair
Lay
way.
it on
I'm
me, Julie. Just lay it on me.
Do you think that you are so confident and comfortable being 32 and playing a high school student because you're a dude and you know that you've got a massive, long career in front of you and it doesn't matter how old you get?
Oh man. Well, first off, thank you. I hope I have a massive and long career ahead of me. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always make the joke that I'm finally old enough to play high school, and I've been auditioning for essentially the same age character for the last 11 years, and so it's I don't know. I really enjoy it. I really do. But it's this interesting thing where I'm playing a different generation than my own, not just a different age, just an actual different generation. And so I feel like there's a lot of things that I have to learn from my castmates in order to kind of understand certain things, but
because your castmates are how old?
they all kind of range. When we first started, they ranged from 17 to 21, and then a few
Right.
around my age as well. They're all like incredible people and wonderful, and so ahead of their time, all of them. That it wasn't difficult to connect with them in any way, shape, and form.
You've listened to the show a few times, which you
Yeah.
said, which I really appreciate. Did you come like with a quit in your head that you wanted to share? Did you start like crafting the quit? And what is it, if I could just ask?
I did, absolutely. I think my big quit that kind of sent me on this path was when I first moved to LA. I worked at a television network as a coordinator for a year and a half. And because I'm a writer first and foremost, that's what I studied in college, and so I thought I would move out to LA, work at a TV network, which I did, and I didn't know how it worked. I thought I could just work my way up to being a writer,
Right.
And
And you had no idea that you're actually siloed as an assistant or as a coordinator.
Exactly. Like I had no idea how this works, and so, but a lot of people in college and whatnot were encouraging me to, maybe you should also focus in acting because, I had a natural knack for it. I love it. I've been doing it for a long time. Yeah, after a year and a half working at the network, sitting in a cubicle, I realized like I don't really think that this is my path. And also, you know what? I thought I was reinventing the wheel. I was like, I could audition and be in a cubicle. Everyone works part-time jobs, but like I can do what no one else has done. That wasn't true. I couldn't do it. I was like, oh, now I understand why people need their schedules to be free. So yeah, I quit. And that was, at this point, one of the best decisions of my life.
Do you remember the day that you decided to quit? Or was it like, I was talking to a friend the other day who stopped dyeing her hair. And it turns out that she has shockingly white hair. And she looks gorgeous because she's growing out. She looks like a lion. It's crazy. But she had this moment. She was hiking with her family. She got to the top of some mountain. She goes, I think I'm done dyeing my hair. Like there was an actual moment. But sometimes it's much more incremental than that. But what do you?
It was definitely incremental. Like I think that there were moments that led me to that decision. And so, one thing was I took any chance I could get to act, whether it was making my own I was making a web series at the time. Anytime someone asked me to be in something, I would do that. I slowly started to realize just how much I enjoyed acting and creating, of course. But, there were kind of a string of events at work that I realized that my head wasn't in it. I wasn't invested in the work that I was doing. And that's both unfair to the company I was working at, and it's unfair to myself as well. I do specifically remember a moment where I was looking around the room, seeing everyone at their cubicles, and I really loved all my coworkers. I was very lucky. I was like 21. I was the youngest one there. Everyone was so supportive, and it was really exciting to work this, like, as I called it back then, a big boy job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I looked around and I was like, look, I'm very comfortable right here, right now. But I could also, if I continue down this path, I think I'm going to be here in 5, 7, 8 years. But I'm speaking for me. I mean, it's completely okay to take that path and to take that journey. Like, I'm not at all bashing that journey whatsoever. I just realized, like, this isn't me. Like, I need to explore this. I need to try and attain this goal that kind of seems impossible, but if I don't try now, then when, And so, yeah, I definitely was very lucky. I did have some coworkers being like, if you want to do this, like, go do it now, And so, yeah, I was very lucky with how much support I had around me.
I'm curious. I used to work in a cubicle too. And on my way out of the cubicle, I was really excited about the journey of getting out of the cubicle, but also really scared.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of what was scary for me was there were people whose opinions mattered a lot to me, who I knew didn't believe in that decision, and who I knew were either scared for me or scared for themselves and projecting that on me. What kind of voices did you have in your head around that time? Were any of those voices not supportive?
Like I said, I was very lucky. So my voices were very supportive. My parents, especially, I acknowledge how lucky I am. My parents are very supportive of me. It was they believed in me, right? And they still do. I didn't mean to put that past tense. I believe they still believe in me. I will say though that my grandmothers also, they were both supportive as well, but there were, of course, people being like, well, what's the backup plan? And I would have to explain,
right.
There is no backup plan. I don't have a backup plan. I don't want that in my head. I know that I'll be able to do this. But also, I think that I was also kind of naive, and I'm kind of glad I was. Like, I was telling people, like, I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to get reps. I'm going to audition. And in 3 years, I'm going to be in, like, a Seth Rogen movie or a Scorsese movie, just either or. Like, I'll be in one of those.
I'll take either.
I will
accept either.
And
they're like, would you accept a Mindy Kaling show on Netflix? I guess so.
I mean, once I saw that audition, I was like, I will take this. This sounds right. But it took years,
What was at stake for you in that? What were you leaving? Were you leaving healthcare? Were you leaving a paycheck that you were relying on? Besides just the I'm taking a chance on my career stuff, physically, like, what was your safety net like, and how much was at stake when you decided to leave the cubicle?
That's a great question, because honestly, it was all financial. I mean, it was like, I was making at the time, it was literally no money, but it was money to me. I mean, I was 21 years old.
Money. You could pay your rent.
Exactly. Like, I was like, oh my God, like, I'm an adult. Like, I could actually pay my rent and buy my groceries and everything. And like I said, I was comfortable. But when I quit that job, that was what was at stake, was living in this ridiculously expensive city without having that safety net, without really having I mean, I don't really have savings at that time. I worked for a year and a half. Like, I couldn't save. And so, but I'm someone who I always want to be as responsible as possible. So it's like, of course I looked for a job right away, a part-time job. And, for the next 7-ish years, I did whatever I could to make it work. And it was like, the fear of being able to live and support myself, it was constantly at the forefront of my mind. I mean, I was always worried about money for a long time. And I think a lot of us are. I think that, I'm I'm not unique in that way. That's what was scary about it. Funny enough, it's like I'm going into this career path where my job is to go on job interviews and not get the job. But I was more concerned with like, okay, how am I going to pay rent? Like that was my big thing. So that was my big fear for me.
And now a word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Sattva. Chad.
Yes, Julie.
You know, when it comes to money, I can be a little bit
cheap.
Frugal. Damn it, Chad. Frugal was the word I was searching for.
I'm sorry. My bad.
Did you know that I used to keep money under my mattress? It's actually true. That I did. I would still keep money under my mattress if it weren't for my accountant, but not anymore. And do you know why?
Because you have an accountant?
No, because my mattress is a Sattva and there's no way I'm messing with that baby.
Solid thinking, Julie. I have a Sattva too, and I know exactly where you're coming from.
And Sattvas appeal to my frugal side as much as to my backside because they're surprisingly affordable.
That's because they're sold online without the retail overhead. So they cost about half the price of the top retail brands.
Listen, if you want the most luxuriously comfortable night's sleep, but you don't want to spend a small fortune, do what Chad and I did. Get a Sattva and put your money in an IRA or the bank or some kind of savings thing. Get an accountant. Whatever you do, don't stick it under the mattress.
And right now, save $200 on $1,000 or more at sattva.com/quitters. That's SAATVA.com/quitters.
This episode of Quitters is brought to you by Primal Kitchen. Everyone loves my jingles, let's face it. I'm a jingle machine. We're coming out of Black History Month. We're going into Women's History Month.
By the time you hear this, it'll be Women's History Month.
Women's History Month. And Primal Kitchen is co-founded by a female and run by Morgan Bueller-Zanotti, proud mother of two with another on the way as the female founder of my own little tiny empire. I really appreciate that, and I want to support her. So go to primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer. Let's support a woman-founded business that will make you feel good about what you're eating.
Quitters listeners can save 20% at primalkitchen.com/quitters or find Primal Kitchen products at your favorite local grocery store or retailer. Quitters is supported by Starbucks.
Yeah, life moves so freaking fast. Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee delivers an uplifting boost that helps you tune into the moments that matter wherever you are.
It's Starbucks coffee, conveniently packaged for life on the go.
Yeah, completely. As a mom of three, my hands are totally full between soccer and tennis, and then there's track right now, and there's never enough time in the day to actually, for me, stop at a Starbucks and get a drink. That's why I love a bottled Frappuccino chilled coffee drink. And I have my favorite Starbucks coffee ready when I am. I don't need to stop anywhere. I don't need to pick it up. I don't need to order in advance. I got it at home.
I like to start my day with coffee, especially when I'm recording a new podcast, which is basically now. I have coffee right here. I start every day with coffee. My go-to is Starbucks ready to drink coffee for that uplifting boost I need to conquer the day.
Oh, I like that you want to conquer your day. By the way, Chad has two podcasts. The other one's Direct Deposit, nominated for a handful of, what's it called?
They're Ambies. They're Ambies. They're Ambies.
I apologize. I should
the
know that.
Podcast Academy.
I like it. I am here for it because Direct Deposit is a really great podcast. Everyone should listen to it. I personally love the range of Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. You know, when I want to grab a Frappuccino chilled coffee drink, or honestly, this is the one I like the best. Nitro Cold Brew, because I'm not a really sugary kind of gal. You might not have noticed this. I like it straight in the vein. If Starbucks could just give me a straight in my vein coffee, that's what I would do. There are so many good choices. Doesn't matter what mood I'm in, I want it straight in my vein.
Starbucks coffee ready for you right now. Shop the full lineup online or in-store wherever you buy groceries.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by Starbucks, ready to drink coffee. If you're confused by this concept, it's right out there. Ready to drink. It's right there. Tune into Moments That Matter with the uplifting boost of Starbucks Mocha Frappuccino, chilled coffee drink, or the Nitro Cold Brew. I'm just saying, available now, online or wherever you buy your groceries.
I'm curious, both of you. I was thinking about this before the conversation, though. Sometimes I'm like, it's a little dangerous to have a successful working actor on the show who says, I put my name in the hat of the most ridiculous lottery. And, and I worked and I grinded and I stuck with it. And I kept showing up and getting told no until I got a yes. And it worked because, like, I know Hollywood is littered with people who did the exact same process and it never, ever happened.
Yep.
Do you all process, besides luck, because obviously there's luck involved, but what's the difference for when it works and when it doesn't work? Why did it work for you two?
Man, everyone has always said, when I was starting out in this industry, anyone who knew what they were talking about, they all said it's a combination of skill and luck and being at the right place at the right time. And it's after years of grinding, I kind of started to erode. My hope kind of started to erode. I mean, I still was motivated. I wasn't any less motivated. I think there's a difference, but I think the skies ahead were very cloudy. And then, of course I did get my break and I was so appreciative of that. But I'm very aware that, the break doesn't always come for some people. And a lot of the times people do deserve it. I get it,
Yeah.
And, I'll talk to, my manager and I have this really cool opportunity to talk to students at our old college. And I do encourage them to, always don't fully have your blinders on. Always be aware of your peripherals. There are things that you could pivot to that are still kind of in the arena of what you want to do, and be open to changes. I mean, in the beginning of my career, I had a few very close calls to be a host, and I did not want to be a host, but I did want to make money,
Right.
at least entertaining people. And so if that were to happen, if I were to actually be offered one of those jobs, I think I would have taken it. And then maybe I would have
Of
pivoted.
course.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah.
I think it's just important to be aware of all of your options. I'm not necessarily someone who's going to be know your goal and stick to it no matter what. Let's be realistic here. We can only control so much in our careers,
When you said the skies are cloudy ahead and you were starting, you still had passion, but you were realistic. You were describing what I always say about the entertainment industry in general, which is there is no joy, only relief. And that is, sure, there's a few people that come out here, audition for the first thing, get wow, and they're getting $20 million paychecks. They're so rare. Most people, even quote unquote successful working actors, have had to compromise, grind it out, take a shitty job, can be told no 100 times before they're told yes. So by the time you get to the yes, you're just like, really? Me? Oh, okay. It's tempered. You never feel I never felt like I was being catapulted into this stratosphere that didn't have anything to do with reality anymore. There was always reality because you've heard no so many times.
Yep.
So it doesn't, when you were asking Chad about what's the difference or what is it like? The difference, I think, is the ability to hear no and go, okay, dust yourself off and get back in there.
That's right.
And also the ability to just go, I still think every job's my last.
Yeah.
Every job is my last job. Full stop. And every audition is my first. And you're going to hear no a gajillion times. But honestly, they grind you the fuck down out here.
They grind you down. They grind you down. And Julie, I have to say, I heard you say something similar. I think it was on Tony Hale's episode about how, your every job, you're worried that it's your last. And I got to say, it's refreshing to hear, you're a veteran of the game. You've worked, you've had these iconic roles, and it is a sense of relief to be like, all right, we all have this fear, no matter how much you believe in yourself, you all have this fear. So
and it all just depends on what you've got on the line. What's your nut? Who are you carrying? When I was in my 20s and working, it didn't matter if I said no to a job or because start to have a little agency, and then you get married, and then you've got kids, and then you're like, oh shit, now there's a lot more at stake, and now, believe it or not, I look at you, Ben, and I go, you're the lucky fucker. You are the lucky fucker. You got it all in front of you, and as far as I know, and I love my children, you don't have any kids, right?
Not yet, no.
Okay, this is the best time ever.
Right.
You're agile. So, but Julie, you're saying it grinds you down. It sounded like that's exactly what you were saying. I'm curious, like, how does facing that many slammed doors, how does that, whatever that does to you, how does it show up in other areas of your life that are non-professional?
Oh man, that's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, first off, the no's, they get to you. As much as you want to say they don't get you, they get to you. And it's actually funny because growing up, I was someone who was so afraid of no. My mom would always say, if I had to go up and ask someone for a mint or something, like the smallest things, my mom would always say, what's the worst they could say? No. And I would be like, yes, that is the worst that could happen. That's a terrible thing to happen. And then I go into this career path where I literally, it's just always no. When it comes to the actual job, I've gotten to the point where I understand that the job isn't real until you're on set and the camera's rolling. Anything can happen. And so I've learned that, and I try to curb my expectations and whatnot. But as far as other aspects of my life, look, I think one of the reasons why I've stuck with this is I am a glass half full person. I am a very optimistic person, sometimes to my own fault and my own detriment. But I'd rather be that way than the other way, and that's just who I am to my core. And so I try not to let my quote unquote rejections in this part of my life to kind of hinder my experience in other parts of my life. I generally always still try to remain who I am down to my core. I'm optimistic. I always think that things are going to work out. And my fiance and I do have kind of this fun dynamic where it's, she's not pessimistic by any means, but I am the glass is 3/4 full all the time, And so we really balance each other out like that. So look, I'm always going to remain optimistic. I always like to think things are going to work out, but yeah, it's a hard balance sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to Michael B. Jordan do an interview promoting Creed, and something he said was that because he thinks that people from the East Coast do well in Hollywood because they're used to seasons. Like they know there's a rhythm of you get fucked up, then something nice happens, then something, off center happens. Like you get used to the rhythm of losing, trying, winning, losing, trying, winning. I'm curious both of you are from the East Coast. Do you think there's any truth in that, or is that reverse engineering?
I think maybe. I mean, maybe.
There is something about getting your ass kicked, humping it through, going to auditions in the snow, going to school in the snow, slogging through things, that you do learn some perseverance. But at the same time, my sister, I've always said my older sister is an actress, or was an actress, and is much better than I am. Going back to what Ben said before, there's other people who should have gotten the break.
Right.
She never did, and she didn't like hearing the no. That was painful for her. And she is a true artist. Honestly, between the two of us, she's a much finer tuned instrument and is wounded by the no more easily. I'm more like a blunt hammer, but really she should have gotten the break. And she grew up on the East Coast too. So I don't know.
One of the experiences that I had growing up that kind of gave me kind of a thick skin, I don't know if it was necessarily being from the East Coast, but look, I grew up a very small, late bloomer, underdeveloped kind of kid, right? I was I'm pretty sure I was 4'11" when I went into high school. So I was a small kid. And so, there was a lot of teasing. And of course the teasing got to me. I'm not sitting here saying don't let it get to you. It gets to you sometimes. I totally get it. But I would use humor to, just kind of change the topic, I just, I wanted to make people laugh. And I think number one, that was one of the things that really made me realize, like, I want to entertain people. I want to make people laugh. Like, this is literally my favorite thing to do in the world, is make people laugh. And I realized, sticks and stones, right? Like, there could have been way harsher things that were said to me, and I'm sure it could have affected me way more. So I'm not sitting here saying like I'm, anyone can overcome anything. Everyone has their own experience. But honestly, I think being someone who was kind of teased for my size and kind of teased for like how late, I hit puberty like last year. Like, I'm not like, you know what I mean? I was small, and so yeah, I think those kind of experiences I still take with me to this day, and you just don't take things personally, right? Like, you just don't take things personally, because you could only control so much in this industry. And
there's quitting the full-time job. And I never had the full-time job. I burned that bridge. I got a full-time job at Condé Nast in the interiors as a junior editor in interior. For the first time in my life, I didn't show up. I burned the bridge because I knew once I got in there, I'm too much of a people pleaser. At that age and time in my life, I would have been like, that's a track. I would have stayed. So I went straight to the gig economy, job in it. Like, you ended up after the cubicle. The next quit is when you quit, when you know that you don't have to keep doing those little gigs in between. Or during. I was on the set of a movie doing coverage for HBO. I was a reader for them. And they were like, I'd leave my book or script that I was covering and I'd go do a scene and come back. And I remember the director going, when do you gonna give that up? And I was like, not anytime soon. When did you know, or when did you give up? Or maybe you haven't given it up.
No, I have. Actually, I believe I was kind of in a unique position. I've worked in a lot of restaurants throughout my life, and I've really enjoyed it. I love being in restaurants. But I was working in a restaurant in Venice. That's where I met my lovely fiance. Her name is Carolyn Gilroy. I was working in a restaurant. I was bartending throughout shooting season 1 of Never Have I Ever. Because it's like I
love this.
Yeah, I knew, like,
that's amazing.
When I got the job, I was like, oh my God, I did it. And once I came back down to earth, my fiance is like, you're right. You're totally right. And so I was literally working shifts in between days of shooting, and I kept working there. And then, COVID hit, and, we were all furloughed. And when it was time to go back to work at the restaurant, when the restaurant was opening back up, it was around the same time that season 2 started shooting. And this was the time where it was like, I can't work at a restaurant, because if I do, then I might get COVID, and then I won't be able to, they'll write me out of episodes and stuff. And so it was this weird thing where it was actually, I was almost forced to leave the restaurant. I think if COVID hadn't hit, I think I still would have worked through season 2, because I don't know how long that show's lasting. Like, it could have only been 1 season or whatever, So, but yeah, that was the last job that I worked. And I'm really glad that I stayed on throughout shooting season 1, because, I just, like I said before, I try to be as responsible as possible. So, yeah.
Do you still feel new? Like, you've been working, you've been in the craft, which I know you people, actors, don't like to say because you think it's gross, but I can say it. You've been in it
say it all day long.
Okay, you've been doing it for a long time, so you're not like new to the thing.
No,
like,
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? You still feel new to this. So can you, what does it feel like to be new to this?
So it's funny, because when I was trying to think of things that like I want to quit, I would love to quit having imposter syndrome. And although I know that I'll never fully get past that, but what I've had to do is I've had to reframe this whole thing in my mind. I know that I'm fresh to the kind of mainstream jobs. And like you said, Chad, yes, I have been working a lot. Like I've been working on my craft. I'll say craft. I don't care. I've been working on my craft for a while, but yeah, I'm new to the mass audiences. And so I've kind of had to reframe it in my mind from imposter syndrome to a student. I see myself as a student, right? And I think I never want to lose that. I think I'm always going to consider myself a student, you know? I think whether it's my first job or my 15th job, I think I'm always going to make a point to like kind of, you know, focus on a few people around set who are just so professional at what they do and learn from them. I think there's some power in owning your freshness and your newness and all that. And so I want to always kind of continue to do that, right? Like I never want to show up to set one day in 15 years and act like I know what the fuck is going on all the time, you know? Because at the end of the day, this is the first time we've all been here as far as we know. That's a different conversation. But like, you know, we're all learning. We're all learning. As far as
now
we know.
I'm intrigued. As far as we know, do you have an alternate? Do you have like a alternate parallel universe theory going on in your head?
No, but you know what's funny though is when I was younger, when I was like a kid, like a little kid, and there's no way I could ever know what like reincarnation is. I guess I said to my dad one time, you know, when you die, you come back as someone else. And my dad said, well, did you come back as someone else? And apparently I said, I don't feel like talking about it right now.
No, are you shitting me? How old were you?
I mean, young, like young. So
like
I don't
4.
know, like that. Probably.
I don't want to talk about it.
That's a good answer.
And who knows? But maybe that was just me. Maybe I'm just an entertainer at heart. Maybe that was just me entertaining my father. You know, who knows? So
you are sort of new to this game, but not really. I mean, your experience, and now you're in the sweet spot where you're making some money because you're on a TV show, but it's not fuck you money.
That's right.
I don't even know if fuck you money exists anymore in the state of California because it's so expensive to live here. I'm sort of reverse engineering a future quit. Are there any jobs that you would never do? Obviously, I'm just going to cross porn off the list. Everybody says porn. But is there anything you were just like, I can't do that. I cannot do that.
It's hard to say specifically those jobs because I would have to like look at the sides of an audition and make that decision. But as far as acting goes, I remember reading this script and it just seemed so tone deaf, and they were throwing out certain words that it just seemed unnecessary to throw out. And I was at that point, for lack of better terms, I felt desperate. I wanted a job so badly. And the character I knew that I could play, but I remember that was like the first time I called my manager. I'm very lucky. He's also one of my best friends, but I called my manager and I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can't do this. And he's like, you never have to apologize. Like it's having artistic integrity, you know? So I remember making that kind of switch, being like, look, if I don't identify with the material, then like I won't actually go after it. You know, I came to learn that it's not all, you know, I've always known that it's not all about the money, but when you're struggling and you need to pay rent, you know, it's hard to see the other side of it. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't love being myself on camera. Like I got into this industry to like play characters and be characters. You know, that's why I studied at the Groundlings. Like I like playing parts other than myself. You know, even though the beginning of my career almost started with hosting, I think still as of now in this point in my career, I think hosting is like, I don't know if I would love to do that right now, just yet. You know, maybe in the future. But the material is a big thing to me.
You said you like to be other people. Like what itch does that scratch for you?
I think growing up, my favorite people to watch on screen, to me, I consider them magicians because I want to see them lose every sense of self, you know, whether it was like Christian Bale or Kate McKinnon or, you know, all the people who can just completely transform. That's the reason why I got into this. It's so much fun to tap into something that I am completely not, you know? And look, my character on Never Have I Ever, Trent, there's a lot of me in Trent, but at the same time, I'm not Trent, you know? I love, you know, putting in the time to create these characters, and it's a project. It's a fun project, you know? I really love it when someone meets me and they're like, wow, you're not at all like this character. You're not at all. And I'm just like, well, then I did my job, you know? And that's fun. That's fun to do. I just love transformative actors. There's like a chemical makeup in the greats that you almost can't teach, you know? Yeah.
When you transform back, do you have to like remember how to be yourself?
No, not yet. At least I look. I'm no Daniel Day-Lewis. I'm, you know,
Like I
maybe
really wonder
one
that.
day.
Are those
but
people like? Are they? I don't get it. Are they okay when they like? I don't know.
No.
Like they're not
Some
okay.
of them are not. You
Okay.
talked like there's Joker syndrome that
Yeah.
goes from Jack Nicholson to Heath, R.I.P. to Joaquin. All these people who have played the Joker go, oh God, it's such a dark, hateful place to live in for however long because they take it so fucking seriously that they traumatize themselves with it.
Right.
Do you get it?
And that's
Do you get it as actors? Is it like? Do you see how you could decide to go further and do that thing, but you're like, I'm not gonna do that. That's dangerous. That's too far.
I could see doing it. I think I could see doing it. And at a certain point in my life, with 3 kids and the responsibilities I have, like at home, it is super hard to maintain that. But like, I was a tiny part in a heavy movie, The Fallout, with Jenna Ortega a couple years ago. And I had to go to work and cry all day, every day. And it was like, it would have been easier just to stay in the crying all day place so that the next day when I should have work, I didn't have to remember what was wrong. Like go into dead puppies, global warming, until you were so depressed. I can't imagine doing that for months at a time. What about you, Ben?
I think that would be an intense experience. I'm not opposed to it whatsoever because when you're building a character, you want to give it all the care in the world in order to, properly portray whatever you're portraying. But I think it's a slippery slope, right? I think at the end of the day, like you just want to make sure that whatever you're doing for the character, you are doing for the character and not to just say that you did it, and I'm not, there's no one specifically in my head that I'm thinking like, oh, I think this person's like bullshit when they do that. I'm sure there's plenty of bullshit when actors are trying to do that. From being with my fiance, who's also an incredible actor, I've learned a lot from her when it comes to the work, and giving the work the proper time, the proper care, the proper effort. I feel like there aren't many people that are like indifferent to method acting. They're either like, oh yeah, like totally, like that's the shit, or people are like, that's fucking bullshit. I don't know. I don't know if I have a fully formed opinion on it yet.
You came out here originally, you thought you were going to be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't quit writing, though, did you?
No.
Or have you quit writing?
No, I still am a writer. I think it's just some people think like you have to make money in order to be that thing, And I think I am a working actor. That is how I make my money. But of course, I still am a writer. I did hold a writing job. I think when I was 25, I was a staff writer for a small sports comedy show on the Audience Network. It was on AT&T and DirecTV's network. And that was my first steady writing job. And that felt really cool because I was like, man, this is really what I came out here to do. And I got to act in the show as well. So that was like a total dream come true. And that was one of those confidence boosters where it was like, I know that I have a knack for acting. I know that I'm good at it, but I also know that like I've always wanted to tell stories and I'm always constantly writing. So that was definitely a confidence booster to be like, okay, no, you're still on the same track that you wanted to go down. My ultimate goal is to have, my own show and I've written pilots, I've, written a movie and that's always going to be, like right there at the forefront of my brain.
Are you one of those people, you poo-pooed them in that last sort of paragraph. You were like, some people believe you aren't the thing until you're getting paid for it. And then you immediately said, and I did get paid for it at this time. And that was really validating. So are you one of those people who really in your heart of hearts is like, yes, I write, but I make my money acting and I'm not going to call myself a writer until I'm making my money writing?
That's a good, wow, you really caught me there. No. Look, I always tell people, like, if we're, like I said, my manager and I will speak to the college students, and if anytime they say I'm an aspiring writer or an aspiring actor or aspiring musician, I'm like, no, you're not. You're an actor, you're a writer, and you're a musician. Just because you're not making money doing it doesn't mean you're not that thing. And so, no, down to my core, I absolutely believe that. But I think one of the ways in which this town and this industry can wear you down is, you tell someone I'm this, and then they'll say, well, what if I have you done anything that I've seen, or have you done anything that I've listened to, And it's like, it's hard. It's really hard to try and, stay confident in yourself when, you're posed with that question, and then you're like, oh man, I don't think I've done anything that they've seen, but that doesn't mean you're not that thing. Right. So I think that's, my cousin is a musician. She's incredible. Her name is Brianna Falcone. But she always says, like, she puts it so eloquently, as an artist, everyone always just sees the tip of the iceberg, right? Everyone always just sees what was actually produced or published or created or put out there. Whereas, 90% below the surface, you're putting in these 10,000 hours, and not everyone always sees these 10,000 hours that you're putting in. And so, I still to this day have to remind myself that, like, stay the course, stay motivated. You are, I know my worth, whether there's money involved or not. I know my worth.
And now a word from our sponsors. Today's episode of Quitters is brought to you by Vuori, who is awesome because they are 100% offsetting their carbon footprint. There's so much fast fashion out there, and they're just destroying the earth. Not Vuori.
I love my Vuori sweatpants. I love my Vuori sweatpants, and I have a Vuori jacket as well. I love them both. They're extremely comfortable. They're versatile. Yeah. I feel like I can wear them to real places, but also just to like walk my dog or to dinner for a friend's birthday. And they do what you want them to do. The sweatpants are comfortable, but you're warm. The jacket is comfortable, but you're warm. I feel like I look like what I'm about to be next week, which is like a 35-year-old person. Like a real person.
A 35-year-old person.
Like a real person. You know what I mean?
Now, when you're talking about the sweatpants, are you referring to the performance jogger?
Yeah. Yes.
Because when you're talking about the sweatpants, I think of my kids in their like slouchy, disgusting sweatpants, and they are really comfy when I look at them. But I'm like, I'm a mature woman, and you are a mature man about to be 35. A performance jogger is like a grown-up sweatpant.
Yes.
But it just is a little sharper.
It has a shape. It has a shape. It's okay for your sweatpants, for your joggers to have a shape. You want to have a shape.
That's right. That's exactly correct. Plus, they're saving the earth. Did I mention that? They also have the jogger in a short. They have my favorite. They have these cute tennis dresses that I'm plugging all over the place because I play pickleball, and I'm going to call them pickleball dresses. So Vuori is more than just clothes. It's an investment in your happiness.
Wow.
For our listeners, they are offering 20% off your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at vuori.com/quitters. That's VUORI.com/quitters.
Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but enjoy free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Go to vuori.com/quitters and discover the versatility of Vuori clothing.
Oh, you know why I like Green Chef?
Why?
When you look at the menu, it says how long it's going to take. Now, I always have to add maybe double it because I'm super slow in the kitchen and not very good. But like my favorite, the pork with balsamic fig sauce, which by the way, you can make with chicken too, is 35 minutes. 35 minutes, that is my speed. I do not want to spend all day in the kitchen.
35 minutes. That is the perfect time to cook while doing what? Listening to a podcast. The perfect recipe is the same duration of a podcast episode. So that's what you do.
Bam. That's exactly right. I always listen to something. So you turn on your podcast and you shake off winter with delicious, easy to follow recipes that support your healthy lifestyle. And you get to pick. You get to pick 3 different meals a week, and you go vegan, paleo, keto, whatever your jam is, you get to pick it.
The thing that I love about it is it tastes like food. It tastes like delicious. all at the same time. You don't have to sacrifice any one of those three things while eating it.
Here's another great thing that they're doing, because I like it fast, 10-minute lunches. Okay, so for me, that's 20 minutes because I'm slow. Let's just pad it. I'm slow. 20 minutes, I can do 20 minutes. That's a shorter podcast, but it's 20 minutes. I can totally do that. Tell us where to go. Where should we go, Chad?
Go to greenchef.com/quitters60 and use code quitters60 to get 60% off plus free shipping. Go to greenchef.com/quitters60 and use code quitters60 to get 60% off plus free shipping.
You know what it is? It's the #1 meal kit for eating well. Ding!
Ding!
Quitters is supported by Starbucks.
Julie, life moves fast. Life moves fast. Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee delivers an uplifting boost that helps you tune into the moments that matter wherever you are.
It's Starbucks coffee. It's the stuff you already love, but it's conveniently packaged for life on the go.
I keep Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee within arm's reach at all times. Whether I'm spending time with friends or just curled up with a good book like Rick Rubin's book, nothing helps me savor the moment quite like a tall, light roast with oat milk. That's it. That's all I want. I don't care.
I am obsessed with the Starbucks Frappuccino chilled coffee drinks. They are delicious. In Southern California, usually it's very warm and you want something light and refreshing. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I really like the Nitro Cold Brew. Nitro Cold Brew. It's like black coffee that's cold and you feel it like, you know what my favorite thing to do with it is? Have you ever heard of a caffeine nap?
No, kind of.
Okay, so
it is.
So caffeine actually takes 15 to 20 minutes to kick in. The sort of placebo effect kicks in faster. But the greatest thing to do, chug a cold nitro brew, set your alarm, take a 20-minute nap, and you will wake up like, bam! It's so good. It is so good. I'm not kidding. It's called a caffeine nap. I learned about it from my sister who's a doctor, so she can't be wrong.
That feels like something that you would do. I love the range of Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee, whether I want to grab a Starbucks Frappuccino chilled coffee drink or a Nitro Cold Brew. There's so many good choices for whatever mood I'm in. That's right. Starbucks coffee, ready for right now. Shop the full lineup online or in-store wherever you buy groceries.
So today's episode of Quitters is brought to you by Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. Tune into the moments that matter with the uplifting boost of Starbucks Mocha Frappuccino chilled coffee drink, available now online or wherever you buy your groceries. I'm stealing Chad's question. It's my favorite question. He asked somebody last year, who gave you permission to know your worth?
I think at the end of the day, the most important person is yourself. You have to anyone can sit here and tell you you're so amazing, you're so talented, you're going to do it. But if you don't believe in yourself, I think that is the #1 person that matters, because at the end of the day, you are the person that has to do it. You're the person who has to get up in the morning and put in the hours and put in the time and put in the work. And so, yeah, to answer your question, it's me. It has to be coming from me. I'm very lucky that I have had people around me, motivate me and kind of reassure me that, hey, I think you're on the right track here, but I'm still the one who has to actually do it. And so, yeah, I have to believe in myself, right? If I don't believe in myself, then that's a completely different ballgame.
Julie, Ben, sometimes you have to ask the question back to Julie.
That's a good...
Yeah, don't let her off the hook. Like, Julie, what do you think about the am I the thing if I'm not paid for it theorem?
I remember getting guest spots. I was waiting tables in New York and I was getting guest spots on shows, and I'd fly. The first time I got a guest spot on a show, I flew up to Toronto. They flew me first class. I almost shat myself. I was like, what? They sent a car that picked me up. It was like a shitty town car. But I was like, I've never taken anything but 777 Carmel, that like car thing in New York. I'd never done. And so they took I had a car to the airport. They put me first class. I was in a hotel for a week with per diem. And I went back I came back like on, I don't know, a Wednesday or whatever. And I had them drop me at the restaurant because I had a shift. And I put my apron on. I get out, I'd like stick my wheelie bag under the bar. And I went to work. And I remember that everybody knew I'd been off for a few days. What happened? Oh, I was out of town. It's just, I had to take care of some stuff. I never talked about it. And I never wanted to be like, I'm an actor, I got a job, because I didn't want to be judged for it and feel like they were going to take me down. But one day I came into that same job and they had set up a screen like on the wall, and they projected that episode of TV that I had been in, and they were like, and I was dying of embarrassment, but they're like, look, you're an actor. And meanwhile, but I'm like, but I'm also like having my ass pinched and taking orders for weird drinks. So am I? I do feel like there's a validation that comes from a paycheck and that comes from like the actual job that, because Chad's getting at is I revere writing. I think
really
writing is the highest form of art. And I always say about him, you were saying, people put you in a box here. Like you're a writer, you're an actor, and it's kind of hard to get out of those boxes. But I think if you come in as a writer, which Chad is, he came in, he wrote a fucking book, screenplay. He wrote for television. He's also cute as hell. He can also act. He can also do music. I can't call him a musician because he gets mad at that one. But because I feel like if you come in as an actor and you're cute, then don't try to get out of that box. Don't try it. But if you come in as a writer or a director or a musician or something else, it's okay for you to dip your toe into acting. It's okay for you to write stuff for yourself to be in, and people will accept it. So for me to say that I wish that I could show people my writing, feels. I'm sweating. Here it comes. Here comes the sweat.
Yeah, literally.
Full sweat. Full sweat every time.
Though, because I can tell people like I can tell people latch on to the belief that once you have established yourself as something, you can put at risk that thing by rocking the boat and trying to do the other thing and failing and not having the same success. Is it real though? What's the case that proves that out? Like, okay, let's writers removed.
Michael Jordan goes to play baseball for a season.
Did that cause any harm to Michael Jordan's legacy as a basketball player?
I think people like skim that chapter of his career, right? I think it's
for sure.
Like they just kind of like hit the bullet points.
I remember it vaguely. I don't know. Did he play? He didn't play professionally, did he?
He did.
No.
He played like at one of the
a AAA or something
for the White Sox. It was like the next.
Division. I think it was AAA White Sox, something like that. Yeah.
But what we don't know is, yes, as we look at the book of Michael. And we're like, I mean, he's a legend, and there's been documentaries, and he will go down as one of the all-time greats. But at that moment, when he's standing at bat, trying to hit, and he's striking out, and every eye is on him, not giving him an inch, not a centimeter, because he's Michael Jordan, so he better be great. And if he isn't great, he's shit. Like, what happened in his mind? How did that affect him to step out to try something and not to succeed at it? We don't know.
We don't know.
And we don't know.
But we
don't know.
See him like come back and continue to dominate. Like,
that's right.
So I think it's probably individual to individual. But I'm like, if Julie Bowen put out a book of freaking haikus, and which she might want to, so I don't mean to diminish them, and they were like a terrible flop, and nobody liked him, and everyone was like, Julie doesn't, her haikus suck. I think it's like a mechanism of like industry control to make people feel like that kind of failure is going to somehow diminish the rest of what Julie has done. That's my soapbox.
Well, okay. I do think that we are in different times right now. I think that the whole multi-hyphenate is way more common now than it was back in the day. And that's not to say that people who were working 20, 30, 40 years ago had it in them to be multi-hyphenates. I just think, we have technology at our fingertips, right? So we do have the means to create things ourselves. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot more multi-hyphenates, especially in the film industry, is because, someone who has been grinding away as an actor for years and years and years, grinded, and if they've constantly been told like, you are an actor, you're this, there are a lot more avenues now, a lot more streamers and and ways in which you can be like, well, fuck that. I'm going to take matters in my own hands and I'm going to get something off the ground myself and prove myself. You know, I mean, like, dude, look at Donald Glover, look at Michaela Cole, like, look at all these people who are making unbelievable art, doing almost everything to create those pieces, right? Because they have it in them, you know? And I think one of the reasons why I've stayed motivated as a multi-hyphenate is because, you know, when I was in middle school and in high school, I was writing, directing, producing, starring in, and editing my own videos. That's what I did. That is all I wanted to do, you know? And so even though those were the silliest videos, a lot of them, the stars were articles of clothing. I don't know why. I made like a movie about a sock and a movie about a hat and a movie about a scarf. Like, I have no idea why that's, I have to unpack that later, but
you do have to unpack that. You got to get those out, and you need to like
them, and they're literally clothes.
Literally unpacked.
I mean, maybe it's because I didn't have enough people who wanted to, you know, who also wanted to do this with me. Anyway, I know what my identity is. I'm not just an actor. I'm a creator. I'm a storyteller, right? I've always wanted to tell stories. And so,
but this goes back to the generational thing that you said. Like, I'm the old fogey here who didn't grow up with iPhones and computers. And I mean, we had word processors, and we certainly did not have the ability to edit or shoot a movie unless you literally got like short ends from NYU's film program. And so it was a very big deal. And as you said that, I realized maybe that is part of the reason why I see myself in such like a box, because we didn't have the means of production to be outside of that box. You needed a sound guy. You needed one person to run a camera. You needed an editor. You needed an actor, because these were all so time consuming and difficult. You couldn't just set up a camera and get a ring light and do some shit.
Right.
So I think that my ass is stuck in a different era, but I wanted to ask you said you work with different generation of actors, and yet you're playing part of that generation. You're pretending that you're a teenager, and you're doing it very well. I too played teenagers into my 30s. And then one day I got cast as a teacher, and I'm like, what happened?
That was the
day. Yeah, it crossed over. How different do you see this next generation? Because you're a millennial, right? And then you're working with a bunch of Xers,
Gen Z.
right? I mean,
Gen Z,
sorry.
yeah.
So, are they different?
Yes, they are different, and you know, they have different slang, right? I think Instagram was a big thing. Like, I didn't have, or TikTok. Like, I didn't have Instagram or TikTok in high school. I actually didn't even have it in college up until like, you know, senior year. So I do think social media plays a big part in that. They are hyper aware of how they're coming across, because at any second someone can just comment on them. I do think that they have this certain awareness that maybe we didn't have when we were younger. But I will say though, look, I have a small sample pool. I have my castmates. I have some cousins who are Gen Z. I know that the generations like to kind of talk shit on each other. And look, I love that. It's fun. It's, you know, it's fun competition. I do think we're in good hands though. I think that when it comes to social rights and everything, like I do think we're heading in the right direction. I do think that there is a newfound sense of empathy with a lot of kids who are Gen Z. And look, sometimes they're a bit much. But like, so were we, like, so were millennials, you know, like we were, before parents were on social media, everyone was putting them like pictures of them drinking on Facebook. Like, that shit was crazy. Like, I can't believe we did that. But then again, it was the wild west of the internet, you know? So, you know, they're growing up very publicly, and that's hard. That's gotta be so difficult, you know? So I think we'll be all right.
It feels like they have all the things that are bad about fame without like any of the things that are good about them. They have to deal with all the things that are bad about fame without any of the benefits. Like, except for the ones that actually are famous. And that feels like a really unfair imbalance to me.
But they are developing this thick skin that I cannot understand. 2 presidents from now, or 2 or 3 presidents from now, let's say, will be somebody who had shit all over the internet, and no one's gonna care. They're smoking weed at a party. That whole generation is so sort of inured to. I'm like, where is your shame? And they're like, well, we don't really have it because we're all sharing it. Obviously, there's exceptions, and I hear horrible stories about nude pictures being circulated for sources of shame and stuff. But in general, this idea that everything I do is open for consumption, everything. So why would I be surprised that the leader of the free world wouldn't also? But I don't know. I'm too old. I don't know if I can
we'll have to
that.
wait and see, because I think you're on. I mean, you're definitely onto something. Like, everyone's living on the internet now, and everything is out there. I feel like people had to like dig up certain things about people in order to hold them accountable. But like, I don't know how much digging you're gonna have to do in a couple of generations. You're right about that.
But will people want to dig? Because like, Bill Clinton inhaled. Okay, well, we all know he smoked weed, and honestly, it wouldn't make a lick of difference at this point. But for him, he had to do this whole "I didn't inhale."
Right.
My man Barry, Mr. Obama, talks openly in his autobiography about doing cocaine, smoking, doing drugs, and he sort of just got out in front of that train before it ran him over, and sort of everybody was like, "Okay." Again, he clearly walks the walk. He's not a guy that's like. He's not like Marion Barry from DC, finding a strip club, doing crack. So everybody backed off.
Marion Barry. I just want to say that.
You do?
Yeah, on our side of Maryland. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
we don't have to get into it. But I just
I
can't
wait to
let
hear
that
about
fly
that
without
later.
speaking on it.
I can't wait. We didn't even ask you, Ben, where you're from.
I know where he's from. It's in the dossier.
It's in the apparently it's in the dossier.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it's
I'm
okay if you say it.
I'm from White Plains, New York.
Plains. Okay.
So north of the city, Westchester County.
Yeah,
Westchester
I know. I know it well.
Got a lot
I
of
want to say
hometown
thank you.
pride.
Is there anything you have been such a delight? Is there
Thank
anything that you want to say that we haven't given you a chance to say, or anything you give a shit about that you want to say something about?
What do you write about? Can that be part of it?
Oh, that's good, Chad.
What do you write about?
I'm very comedy, driven, right? And so everything that I write is comedy. But I got my start in writing by writing sketches. That was my strong suit. That's the way my mind worked when it came to writing. And I think I had to, since living out here, I had to learn how to expand that medium and work, in longer formats. Look, I've been working in television, so I think I'm focusing in that, developing show ideas or writing pilots. The way I put it to my manager is like, I get a lot of ideas, but there is that feeling I get when I'm like, that one, like that's the one, and then I pull on that thread and I think, is it worth it to, go down this road and put in all this time to flesh it out? And so, yeah. Look, it's always comedy for me. It's always going to be comedy for me. I want to make people laugh, and I want to write my own characters. So that's what I write, and I'm sure one day people will get to see what I create. So I'm pretty confident about that.
No doubt.
Well, we look forward to it,
you.
and thank you so much. Thank you for coming and talking to us. It's not an insignificant thing to quit. To step off the edge and quit the cubicle. Yeah. Chad did it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's scary.
Look, I'm glad I did it. And I will say that year and a half of working in a cubicle was technically much easier than the following 7 years, because I held like every part-time job under the sun. Like, it was restaurants, Lyft, Uber, Postmates, valet. I cleaned a house, an Airbnb. Like, I was a personal assistant for these rich guys. Like, I did everything.
And you met your fiance doing one of those jobs, right? So that's like, I don't know, that's really special.
It's funny. The writing job that I had working on the show, I did that for about 6 months, and then we got canceled, and I made money for the first time, and I was like, this is it. My career is ready to go. Like, my career is going to take off now. And then in the following 6 months, I spent every dime of that money without getting another job. And then I was like, oh my God, the grind is never going to stop. I'm going to have to go back and work in a restaurant. So I was broke, went back to work in a restaurant, and that's where I met my fiance. So thankfully, I wasn't great with my finances. And now here I am, very happy. So
Always the optimist, Ben Norris. Thank you so much for coming to Quitters.
Thank you for having me.
You are delightful. Thank you. And thank you to producer Kate for connecting us with this
thank you, Kate.
Astonishingly intelligent and optimistic young man.
Oh, man. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. You guys are great, and I'm going to keep listening, obviously.